Welcome to the Be Your Own Superhero Women's Leadership Conference, inspiring the superhero in you. Welcome to episode 6. This is our final episode in the Be Your Own Superhero Women's Leadership Conference. Our guest speaker for this episode is Julie Hryniewicz of Main Street Wellness Center. Julie will be speaking about the power of visualization.
Okay, so the first thing I need everybody to do right now is please stand up. No, you can't sit down. Now, if you can't physically stand up, you're allowed to sit down. We have had a very, very long and information-filled day. I want you to close your eyes just for one moment. Imagine that we're sitting in a yoga pose. We've got our legs crossed. We're feeling very, very relaxed and very in tune with the world around us. And all of a sudden, a big, red, shiny dump truck backs up to us with that beeping sound. And it comes right back toward us, and it dumps out all this information all over on top of us. And we're feeling the weight of all of that information, and it's all around us. And we're not sure exactly how to plow through all that information. And our yoga pose that was at one point very peaceful is now feeling very overwhelming. I think for a few moments today, some of us have felt that way. What I'd like you to do right now is open your eyes. I would like you to grab any valuables you might have, and please switch seats to a place that you are not beside the people who you are currently beside right now. I know some of you really want to be together, but you have been sitting together all day, and I want you just to find a new seat and a different place at a different table. And while you're doing that, please ensure your chair is facing me and you're not looking sideways. I also want you to make sure you have nothing blocking your feet or your arms, or you're directly beside someone. Unless you really want to be attached to them, then that's okay. My daughter's here and we were like hugging each other, but she was having a little bit of a nap occasionally. So don't get too close, because we need you to stay awake just for another little bit. Because this is really most people's low energy time, and normally that's what I'm talking about is energy. So it's kind of exciting that I'm not talking about energy, because we had some fabulous speakers who talked about so many different areas of health in our life. We talked about financial health and mental health and, kind of really getting our lives together. Now, I heard a lot of grumbling when I asked you to change seats, and a matter of fact, some people cheated. Can you imagine? How many people are sitting in the same seat or at the same table? And Joyce? Yes, Joyce. Okay, 1, 2, 3. Now, this little exercise that we do is to show that in order for us to make positive change in our lives, we have to get uncomfortable. We have to do something differently. And it felt uncomfortable. We had to pick up our stuff, and we didn't know if we had all our purse together and those orange bags and all of those things, and now we've left it, and now we don't know if we're going to remember everything when we go. But guess what? Any positive change is going to be uncomfortable. And so for those people who stayed in the same area, that's either, I'm feeling pretty good where I'm at, I'm feeling pretty comfortable, or I don't like change, or my feet are sore and I just can't walk across the room. It could be a number of things. It could be that you rip the back of your shirt and you need just to stay perfectly still for the next little bit. So I'm not really sure what your excuse was, Joyce, but that's okay. Your table left you.
Yeah, so everybody was coming new.
Oh, so you thought that was okay. All right, we'll go with that philosophy, but that's okay. So today, my exciting topic is about goal setting. And honestly, this is one of the most exciting topics that I ever like to talk about, because I'm all about how to manifest. And so for anyone who knows me, I'll say things like, yep, I manifested that. And they'll say, well, what does that mean? And I'll say, oh, I'll teach you over time. I'm all about becoming a master manifester. How do we accomplish the things in our life that we're working towards, our dreams, our goals? But I'm going to tell you right now, most of us have goals that are actually not authentic to what we really want. So I'm going to throw the whole goal setting completely upside down. Because honestly, most of us, when we came out of high school, college, started to have a family, a job, we set goals for ourselves that we thought were really going to make us happy. So then we look ahead, for some of us who are maybe a little bit older than in our early 20s, and we decide that all of a sudden we're in a place where we thought we wanted to be. We had the job, the car, the kids, the garage, the vacations, the time off, and some of us found out that we were extremely miserable. Now, I went through my breakdown, so I can really relate to Catherine. Honestly, I commend you, and I think that you are very courageous for opening up and telling people reality. Because I thought that I had all of those happy things. I was a police officer for 8 years, I burnt out, I was suicidal, my life fell apart, bankruptcy, divorce, disease, blah, blah, blah. It went on and on. I'm so tired of telling my own story, actually, because it was pretty messy. And so when I hear that, I think, oh, good for people to be authentic. Let's be real, honestly. For those who are in the room who are business owners, your employees, you're building your clients, whether you work for another corporation, whether you're retired, a volunteer, a mom, whatever it is, we have to be authentic and honest with ourselves. And sometimes the goals that society says we should reach will actually make us miserable. So my goal for you is to hopefully give you just a couple of tools in the few minutes we have together that you can constantly check in with yourself to make sure you're actually on track to what you really want in your life. So we're going to do another little exercise. So make sure you're comfortable. I want you to close your eyes for a second. And the reason that we do this is because we want to tap into our full brain, to allow our brain, and I'm going to touch a little bit on what Sandra talked about earlier, but now that I asked everybody to move, I don't even know where she is. Okay, so we're going to talk. So now your eyes are closed, you're nice and calm. I want you to go to the most beautiful and amazing and gorgeous place that you've ever been to in your life, where you remember being in a state of awe and beauty in nature or whatever it was, any place in any time in your past life. I want you to just think about that for a couple of seconds, where you remember feeling, this is so beautiful. Now I want you to think, whatever that scene is for you, what did you hear around you? What was going on? Were there birds? Were there leaves rustling? Was it rain? What did you hear around you? Next, I want you to think, what were you feeling in that moment physically? If you could reach down to your feet, wherever you were walking or sitting, what would you touch on the ground? Would it be grass? Would it be water? Would it be sand? Would it be crunching leaves? And then I want you to think, all right, so here I have these beautiful sights and sounds. Now I want you to imagine that you're opening your eyes, but keep your eyes closed. And what do you see in front of you? Is it a sunset? Is it waves? Is it water? Is it a canoe? Is it a lawn chair? Your garden? Imagine that and think about those things that are right in front of you and how beautiful that is. And what do you smell? Do you smell crisp air? Do you smell flowers? Do you smell sea salt from the air? Now, in that particular moment, whatever it is that you're experiencing around you, I want you to just take a deep breath and suck it all in. Suck in everything that's around you, the sights, the sounds, the smells, the feelings, the emotions. How do you feel being in that scenery? Do you feel calm? Do you feel peaceful, joyful, happy? What is it that you feel? Now I want you to open your eyes. I want you to turn to a person beside you, near you, next to you. Make sure everyone has a partner, and I want you to tell them, if there were naked men involved, maybe just censor it a little bit. So don't give them too many juicy details, but if you're comfortable, tell them a little bit about what you felt and what you envisioned. So go ahead and turn with a partner. If there's any spares, someone come up to me. So make sure you have a partner. 2, 3, 4, partner. Okay, so we'll bring our attention back here. Thank you all for sharing your stories. Did anyone just sit there and say, no, too graphic or censored, couldn't share anything? Nope, we're good. Okay, so what you just did was a very simple visualization exercise. Probably everyone in this room has done visualization at part of some seminar and some conference. Now, what I didn't understand until my 40s is why this works, or why we can put ourselves in a different state of being. And it's because we have two different sides of the brain. And when I was 25 years old, 4 days on the job, I was a police officer in Blind River. And I had to go to my first autopsy. So I got to see my first brain outside of a skull, 4 days on the job. Now I was quickly rethinking my career choice, and although it lasted for 8 years, I eventually left. Now, that brain was very interesting to me because if you physically look at it, it's in two separate halves. It's a very clear separate half. So think when you see an intestine and it has all those little tubes and they're all squished together, that's what a brain looks like. It looks very rubbery, but such an interesting, remarkable piece of scientific miracles. And this brain is actually connected on both sides by about 2 million nerve fibers. And those fibers bridge the gap between the left hemisphere and the right hemisphere of the brain. So why is this important? Well, Sandra mentioned earlier about Jill Bolte Taylor. Now, I just happened to watch her TED Talk. It was filmed in 2008. It became viral on the internet. She was a scientist who had actually studied the brain and actually studied post-mortem brains, so after people had died. And she suffered a brain hemorrhage in the left hemisphere of her brain that caused her to have a stroke. So she was in a moment actually very excited that she was able to have an experience with her brain that she could actually study herself. And it took about 8 years for her to fully recover in order to be able to learn how to talk and walk and all those things again. However, it was in that moment, as I was hearing her describe her experience, that when the right side of her brain really fired up because the left side was in crisis, she started to kind of look around, and she described it as being in a state of nirvana, in a state of la-la land. She says, all of a sudden, everything was just connected with each other. It was beautiful. There were no edges to anything. I felt like everyone was love and connection, and we're all one, and it's peaceful. And it was this really amazing feeling, and she's just so eloquent at describing her story. And then she says, but all of a sudden the left brain started to say, man, we're in trouble here. You need to call like 911. Something's going on. And then she'd go, oh, but look at my hands. They're so beautiful. Oh, isn't it glorious? All of a sudden the right side of her brain like really ignited because the left side that is normally responsible for words, language, research, analysis, interpretation, concepts, it would be like overwhelming. So I think of the left side sort of as the accountant, the file cabinet, the part that, it keeps us on track, keeps us scheduled, but the right side, even though there's a creative part to both sides of our brain, the right side is mainly in pictures. So it creates the images. So when we did this visualization, we actually switched primarily to the right hemisphere of our brain so that we could think in pictures and sights and sounds and senses. So when we get in touch with all of the senses, when we decide what's important to us in our life, now, when you went to that special place, even if there were naked men all over the beach or whatever it was, you actually created a state in your mind. And what's interesting about the brain and the mind is that it doesn't understand the difference between reality and between visualization. Your body, if we hooked you up to biofeedback equipment, would actually be firing off the same nerves as if you were actually doing the thing that you were imagining doing. They would hook you up and they'd say, ooh, all these happy feelings are happening and all this euphoria and all of the good chemicals are forming in your body because you imagined it, but the brain and the mind doesn't know that it's not real. So when you're having a really stressful day and things are going bad and you're running late and your kids are screaming and you're late for work and everybody's sick and bills are bad and your boss is, frustrating, and for those of us who don't, if you don't have a boss, that's really great, Joyce, but I think you're somebody else's boss, so that, hopefully all those concepts work for them and they enjoy the atmosphere because you have now brought into their workplace and instilled all those same values in your workplace. And it's still there, okay. So now we have created that artificial state, but you can actually switch your state at any second. So you can create any state of mind that you'd like simply by, you don't necessarily even have to close your eyes. For me, it's when I'm in nature. And I got to explain a little bit about what my vision, my scenery is, and it's at Fort Creek. Between the Fort Creek entrance and the Third Line entrance, there's one of the big metal bridges. And one day I walked where I was about 3 feet on top of the snow on the bridge. And so I was actually almost where I could fall over the edge. So I'm really glad that I wasn't intoxicated or anything because I didn't want to go over. But so there I was, and I looked out and no one was around. And it was so gorgeous and beautiful that I literally felt like I stepped into heaven. And I went, if there's a heaven, this is what it's going to be like for me. It's just glorious. Just seeing the snow melting and hearing the river and the little creek that was going through. But when we touch into all of those senses, that's how our goals and our dreams can become reality. So when it comes to manifesting, I put it in my head, not, I want to do this. I say, what does it feel like to do this? What am I saying when I'm doing this? What do I smell around me? What do I see on the floor? What am I wearing? Who's there? What is happening around me? How did I get there? Did I get there on a bus? Did I get there on a plane? What is this goal for me? And I visualize it as if I'm creating my own YouTube video of the final result. But you have to put yourself in that state of saying, all right, this is my goal and this is what I want. And now when people say, oh, I want to win the lottery, honestly, I get frustrated by that because I think to myself, I asked a guy, and I often ask people when I see them buying lottery tickets and they think probably I'm very offensive, but I say, oh, what would you do if you won the lottery? I see you're buying lottery tickets. And the one fella said, well, I'd probably give it away and maybe I'd go on a vacation or whatever. And I'm thinking, and I said, are you not able to do that now? And he said, oh yeah. And I'm thinking to myself, we often put off, until we can hopefully win the lottery, the things that we're actually capable of planning for now. So when I talk about goal setting, I talk about 4 concepts, and we're not going to go into any of them, but the first one is an idea. If you look at everything around you, the tablecloths, the glasses, the chairs, all of your clothing, it was an idea in someone's mind at one point, and then it became a plan. And then someone took action, and then the result. All these things were manifested out of thin air by someone's idea. The red, beautiful cardigan you're wearing, some fashion designer somewhere said, oh, I want to make red, beautiful cardigans. And then they said, well, what's that going to look like? And she says, well, my idea is that it looks like this. So she writes it down and draws it in her little sketchbook, and it becomes a plan. And then they say, well, why don't we make a mock-up of that little beautiful red cardigan? And then they put their material together, and all those seamstresses in the room who have that amazing talent of being able to sew clothing, put it together, and boom, there's the cardigan. And now all of a sudden, the result. And then they say, let's manufacture these and sell them all over the world. And they go, oh, cool, great idea. Now we can make a bit of a profit. But everything around us, every house, every car, every line on the road, every bit of pavement, every cement, every bit of food we eat was an idea in someone's mind and then was eventually produced into reality. You have that superpower. You can create anything out of thin air. Now, oftentimes we say, yeah, but I can't create that $1 million house, and I can't create that chiseled guy with the, what do they call them, 6-packs? Some guy apparently had an 8-pack, and I'm like, wow, okay. On The Bachelorette or something, I heard about an 8-pack. So you can create from your mind with an idea and eventually get the result simply by putting yourself in the state that we did in your little realm of visualization. Now, in order to do that, we have to get quiet. And that's our biggest issue. All of you in this room have probably 5,000 responsibilities to take care of between now and the end of this year. And you have people relying on you, and I want to congratulate you for being in this room. Because of the hundreds or thousands of people who've heard advertising or had the opportunity to be here, you're actually in this room. And you managed to be here all day with all these speakers and all this information piled on you, and you didn't walk out and you didn't leave. So congratulate yourself and turn to the person next to you and congratulate them for being here and taking the time for you. So I want you to think to yourself right now, have I bought into society's version of what I should have for success? And some people may not realize that their authentic version of success and what society thinks is success is not the same. It took me burning out and realizing that all those external things meant nothing to me. I now live in a 912 square foot house in the country on a ravine with my husband. It's nice and peaceful. My mortgage payment is smaller than my car payment. And I love that very much. And I drive an older car and all of those things. So I could really relate, because honestly, once your life falls apart, and I hope you don't get there, and I hope if you already have, you're on your way to healing, and I hope if you're in the middle of falling apart that you understand that you will and can and truly will overcome this. You are a powerful, creative human being, and you can create all of those things, but we are too busy. You have to learn, and I think someone already mentioned this today, you have to start saying no. And my daughter turned to me when we talked about that earlier, and she says, "You're really good at saying no." And I said, "Yes, I am now." But it's been a lot of years of me burning out and saying yes to too many things that I finally was completely out of energy and gas, and there was no way that I could continue to be helpful to anyone else. So when my life hit the very lowest bottom of the barrel, I finally learned how to say no. It doesn't mean that we shut off from the world and we become a witch and we don't do things for people, but it means that in order for us to be effective for other people, we have to take care of ourselves, and that's been a theme. That has been a theme. This is time for you to wake up to the fact that you have this undetermined span of time between today and the day that we all transition to our next great adventure. Hopefully it's going to be very exciting and very wonderful, and just like my Hub Trail walk. However, we don't know when that is. Unfortunately, it could happen right away. It could happen 40 years from now. If you're nice and young, it could happen 60 years from now. But we have this undetermined span of time, and we need to do something about it now. And that doesn't mean chasing someone else's idea of what a dream is for us. It means figuring out what makes me happy. What do I need? Do I need more time in my garden? Do I need to spend time with my grandson? Do I need to be able to sit more on a Muskoka chair and relax? Or do I need to keep building and building and building to the point that I have so much on my plate I can't handle anything? So delegate, learn to say no, and really get quiet and figure out what is your own authentic version of yourself. As much as I don't want to give you homework, can you grab a piece of paper on those pads and a pen? And I want you, just for yourself, you don't have to share this with anyone, jot down, if you had to answer the question, what is important to me? What do I need? And it can just be one word. I need nature, I need travel, I need love, I need hugs, I need time, I need rest. Whatever it is for you, just jot those things down as if it's you only have 5 minutes left to get that off on paper. Jot it, think about it. And when you actually take the time to figure out what that is, then you can get nice and quiet in your brain and start to work toward accomplishing those dreams. So take 2, not even 20 seconds right now to write a couple of things if you're so inclined. Because once we have an idea and we write it down, it actually starts to set it in motion. Now, of all the sheets you're going to take home with you today, hopefully you take home that one because you haven't finished it yet. You only wrote a couple of things, but now you know I need to finish that. So rip that paper out, put it in your pocket, and understand that goals are simply the manifestation of an idea in your brain that then goes to a plan, that then goes to action, that becomes a result. So I just want to end with, I'd like you to put your pens and your papers down, and I'd like you to close your eyes one more time. So I want you to take a deep breath in and out. And I want you to wake up on your most perfect day. Where are you on your perfect day? Who is around you? What physical space are you in? What are you doing as you're waking up? What do you hear around you? How are you feeling? What do you feel in that moment of bliss? And as you look around, what do you touch? If you put your hands down beside you, in front of you, above you, what do you touch? And now you get up And you can prepare your day, and let's say you had to write down on a chalkboard on the wall what you're going to do in your perfect day. What would you write? How would you create that day? What would you do? Would you be getting showered and dressed, or would you be crawling onto your cozy, comfortable couch with a comforter? What would you do with that day? Fast forward to lunch, where are you dining? Fast forward to the afternoon, what are you doing? Now you're at supper, what are you eating? What do you taste? What do you smell? And now it's the evening, who are you with? What are you experiencing? What is around you? And now, at the end of your perfect day, you're laying down on your most cozy bed ever, and you're thinking about how beautiful that day was. How do you feel? Now open your eyes. You get to go out right now into the world, and you get to create those things. And most people who just envisioned their day are things that you can already achieve and you already have in your life. So create that perfect version of your day, as many days as you have the energy to do, and that's why it's important for you to stay healthy and well in all of those areas. So understand that your superpower lies within your whole entire being. And you go out now, make a difference in your own life, make a difference in your family, your community, your workplace, and your business. And now we're all going to exponentially make a difference in this community and in this world. So thank you very much, everyone, for having me today. And off to your new adventure. And Catherine, I'll turn it to you.